Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The 8A Small Business Contracting Program is in a fight for its life. From Capitol Hill to the courts and now to the executive branch, the 47-year-old program is facing questions about its legitimacy and challenges to its true impact like never before. For more on how the increased level of scrutiny is putting the 8A contracting program in the crosshairs, Federal News Network's executive editor Jason Miller joins me now. Jason, great to have you.
Always a pleasure.
There has been a lot of news about the 8A program in the past few weeks. What are you seeing there?
There's three different and really related attempts to really rein in, change up, really maybe even end the 8A program as we know it today. And I'll go through each of them real quick, and then we'll delve deeper into them separately. The most recent one happened, I think, this week with the Small Business Administration sending a letter to more than 4,300 8A firms seeking a lot of data, and they want that data by January 5th. So it's going to be a very busy holiday season for a lot of these firms. The second one also earlier this week, and it's building upon, is Senator Joni Ernst, the chairwoman of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. She actually wrote a letter to 22 agencies calling them to halt all new 8A sole source awards for the short term until SBA completes its audit, which that letter to those 4,300 8A firms was part of. And then finally, in mid-November, right before Thanksgiving, a conservative public interest organization called the Center for Individual Rights, they teamed up with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty and filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District in Louisiana, trying to force the repeal of the program as we know it. So again, a lot going on, but each of these is, again, trying to increase the scrutiny, trying to really push agencies. Do we really want to award? And also really puts the pressure on these 8A firms.
Well, let's take them one at a time. What do we know about the SBA's audit, and what should 8A firms keep in mind as this process unfolds?
This dates back to earlier in the summer when the USAID contracting officer, owners of 3 companies, all pled guilty for their roles in a decades-long bribery scheme involving 14 prime contracts under the 8A program, worth more than $550 million. This really rose that level of, okay, what's going on here? Behind that was an October video from O'Keefe Media Group, a right-wing activist organization focused on ATI Government Solutions. Again, they admitted in that video, the ATI Government Solutions, to defrauding the SBA's 8A program. So all of this resulted in SBA saying, we're going to take a deep dive into the 8A program and do a complete audit. They sent a letter to 4,300 firms earlier in the week. We got a copy of that letter. And by January 5th, 8A vendors must send to SBA data sets around 15 different questions. Now, these range from anything from general ledger for the last 3 fiscal years to bank statements for the last 3 fiscal years to the all employees, list of all employees, all vendors they worked with, all copy of all 8A contracts, a lot of data that has to be put together. And basically what SBA is saying is A, you need to send us this information. And if you don't send this information, there will be problems. Basically, either A, you'll be kicked out of the program, or there'll be other investigative or remedial action that's going on. There's a lot of discussion around what this means, this letter on LinkedIn. And Rob Wong, who's a former associate administrator for SBA's Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, basically said this type of investigation now raised the level. It's not just going from an administrative investigation, but really to a legal and compliance investigation. And that's why I think this is really turning up the heat on the 8A program.
So that makes a lot of sense, a lot of scrutiny there. What do we know about the lawsuit, and how is it different from previous ones that forced SBA to make some changes to the program in the last year or so?
So this was followed by the Center for Individual Rights. And they're not new to challenging the 8A program. They actually brought what they call the ultimate lawsuit to court in 2023, eventually winning the case. That led to SBA making some changes, requiring participants to provide a narrative about why they are socially and or economically disadvantaged. But this is even broader than the Ultima case. I talked to Mike Petrino, the organization's lead attorney, and he says Ultima, they were just worried about a single client. They thought the SBA rules are harming the client by the use of their rule. This one really is harmed by other offices applying the SBA rules. So other agencies who are taking the SBA regulations and then using them. They are basically challenging the regulation issued by SBA that creates a legal presumption that every individual who is a member of certain races or ethnicities are socially disadvantaged. So this is a much deeper, broader one. And really what CIR and the Wisconsin Institute want is not necessarily an end to the 8A program, but they just want to remove any racial preferences that they believe SBA inserted into the law. And so they want the kind of to go back to what the Constitution and the Section 8A of the Small Business Jobs Act really outlined back 40 some years ago.
Senator Ernst's letter seems to tie these things together. There's some underlying presumptions about the value of the 8A program, and she's leading the scrutiny from Capitol Hill. So what is she asking agencies to do about their sole source contracts?
Absolutely. She has been the biggest voice on Capitol Hill, saying that this is a problem, that this program is what she called a magnet for fraud. And she points to, obviously, the USAID case, and now the ATI Government Solutions allegations as examples of that. And basically what she did in her letter is to say, first of all, to these 22 agencies, halt all new 8A sole source awards. And then this comes also after she introduced legislation that would also suspend all 8A sole source contracts until SBA completes their audit. So she's kind of taken it from both a legislative approach and, hey, I'm the powerful chairwoman of this committee, you should do what I say as well. Now, what basically she is saying in these letters is she believes there's enough evidence and there's enough history, whether it's GAO reports or SBA's Office of Inspector General or now Justice Department, that's exposing what she calls the rot of the 8A program, which are sloppy oversight, weak enforcement measures that has allowed 8A participants to act as quote-unquote pass-throughs and also snagging these unlimited no-deal bids with little transparency. So she feels like, by December 22nd, she would like each agency to respond to her letter. Do you plan to suspend 8A sole source contracting? And then on top of that, she also wants agencies to review all sole source and set aside contracts that they've awarded since 2020. Again, looking out for fraud, looking out for waste, looking out for kind of these concerns. So I think when you put it together, there's a lot going on, the through line that really puts 8A program under an intense amount of scrutiny and really could end up changing the way the program works and has worked for much of the last 47 years.
And Jason, you take all of those and add to them the fact that many agencies have significantly downsized their small and disadvantaged business offices. If you're an 8A owner, what should you be thinking about in 2026?
There's a couple things. Now, going back to Rob Wong, who's now a managing executive at Deepwater Point and Associates, he offered some guidance for companies. First of all, if you're going to respond and you should respond to the SBA letter, don't miss their deadline, file on time, ensure all your documents support ownership, control, continued eligibility, verify your teaming agreements, confirm your performance documentation matches what you proposed and what you certified, be thorough. So that's all in response to the SBA letter. On top of that, really what I think a lot of 8A firms should start thinking about is how can they get to their member of Congress, can they get to their broader community to say, yes, there are some bad apples, but not all apples are bad. And we shouldn't throw out the entire bunch because there are a few bad apples. You can look at any program across any part of government, whether it's a contracting program or otherwise, and see that there are problems, but it does not mean the entire program is bad. And I think right now, I've asked the National Association of 8A companies to comment on several of my articles. They've always declined to comment. I think between an organization like that and then some of the other ones, like whether it's the Coalition for Government Procurement or Professional Services Council or whomever, those companies in these associations should get those associations to begin to speak up and ring the alarm bell. Because again, these programs have served well for a lot of companies for a long time. And this is not to say there's no problems. I'm sure there are. But again, what seems to be happening is this idea that these two cases of fraud represent the entire program.
That's Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller. Jason, thanks so much for connecting the dots for us.
Always a pleasure.
You can find his story at federalnewsnetwork.com.